All right. Welcome to our work session, May 21st. I'm going to call the meeting to order. There it is. We are joined tonight by Andrew Kiwanis, who will be doing our pledge and invocation for us tonight. You guys would like to come join us up here and make sure one of you speaks right in that microphone so the internet world can hear us. Shall I stand now, or do you have a lengthy intro?
No, not a lengthy, but I will introduce her.
That would be great, please.
Mr. Mayor, Board of Commissioners, it's a pleasure and honor to be here tonight. I'd like to introduce some of our members, our board members. My wife, Christina, and I. Everybody knows Mr. Bob Smith. And Galen Bishop are all here tonight. We're proud to be here, and thank you for letting us be here tonight. Please, if everybody would stand, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I've asked Bob if he would do our invocation.
And here I am again. Let us pray. Well, Lord, we're talking budget tonight. You know, with all due respect, that fellow who was the treasurer of the 12 didn't do too good a job. But we ask that you embolden and give this group a lot of responsible sense in how to parse out the money that's available to them. Lord, use this money and this time and the forces behind this board to make this an even more special place. Amen.
Amen. Thank you guys very much. We appreciate it. All right. Before I get into any business, really quick, Commissioner Kazakavich has allowed me to have a little fun with him tonight. So I've had a lot of complaints, that people can't see Jim vote because we have this wall over our desk. And Jim votes. I see him, so I can attest that he does vote. But I brought him something that, might help us, the public better. Would you mind? Thank you. Might help the public better see in the interest of transparency. So thank you for being a good sport, Jim. All right. So, I'm sorry. With that, we have an agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda tonight?
I will ask to make an amendment to the agenda that we add a closed session pursuant to the general statute, which I do not know the number of, about personnel.
All right. If there's no discussion, all those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Can I get a motion to approve the amended agenda?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the amended agenda as just written and spoke.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. All right. First, and maybe most pressing, Elizabeth is going to talk to us about the budget again.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. I'm pleased to present the fiscal year 24-25 budget to you. This is the culmination of a lot of input from you all and then a lot of work from our staff, which I'm very grateful. So we're just going to go over kind of a high level at this point. Andrew's tax base is just over $933 million. The recommended tax rate remains the same at 49 cents. Ad valorem tax revenue is increased $813,000 over the previous year. Our budget is balanced at $8.9 million. Sales tax revenue is still trending up, but moderating from the post-pandemic growth that we saw earlier. And the budget includes many capital improvements, which you all have already agreed to. Strategic priorities. So you recently adopted a strategic plan to help guide us over the next 2 to 5 years. The first one, the first priority was infrastructure improvement, and the budget is funding sidewalk, the construction of the Junior Road water tank, and the core line replacement. For operating as an excellent public service organization, the budget is funding a cost of living adjustment of 3%, merit pay up to 4%, a compensation and pay study, a longevity pay increase, and new equipment and software for our employees. For promoting community and economic development, there's funding for facade grants, events, and downtown improvements. For managing residential growth, there is funding for a new comprehensive land use plan and funding for an asset modeling system for water and sewer to help us make better informed decisions about growth in and around town. To develop an outstanding parks and recreation system, there's funding in the budget for a Part F grant for matching funds of $500,000. Providing a high level of public safety, we have additional funds for training. We have the recommended purchase of radars and license plate readers. Please stop me if you have any questions. So Fund 10 is our operating account. The revenues are $8.9 million. This is an increase of about $1.8 million over the previous year. We've had about 200 homes completed within town of Anger, and then we had a revaluation in Wake County. The Wake County properties increased on average. Anger's Wake County properties increased about 65% over the previous year. So this is our revenues by source. So your ad valorem revenue is your property tax at 47%. So that's a very stable revenue. Unrestricted revenues come from the state, so your utility franchise tax, local option sales tax. Restricted funds are typically grant funds that have to be spent for a specific purpose. And then we have our permits and fees and sales and services. And this is just for Fund 10. And your expenditures by department, you can see that we are spending the most in our streets and sanitation and police department, with everyone else having a slightly smaller piece of the pie. So for the governing body, and if you are looking at the agenda as posted online, there was an incorrect spreadsheet that was included, and I do apologize for that. The board has the corrected spreadsheet in front of them. So the budget for the governing body is $367,000 with $287,000 budgeted for contingency. I will share with you that we've not received the renewal for property and liability insurance. That was budgeted at last year's rate plus 20%. So hopefully that is a good number, but should it come in slightly higher, we may have to use some of those funds to cover that. If we did not have to use those funds, you could consider that money to go towards potential salary increases that are documented in the pay and compensation study. The administration total budget is $718,000. We are moving the community development coordinator into the administration budget. It doesn't change the reporting structure. She has always reported to me, but just made more sense to have it under the administration budget. We are requesting a full-time administrative assistant and a part-time administrative assistant and events coordinator for the community development department. Finance's recommended departmental budget is $326,000. We have cost savings from employees who did not have experience and came in at a lower rate versus employees that had been here for a while. And then we eliminated a software that was costing the town $10,000 that we didn't need. The utility billing supervisor is fully budgeted in the water and sewer fund, and it's also important to note that all of the positions are split between Fund 10 and the water sewer fund. The police department recommended budget is just over $2.7 million. Total number of positions funded is 25. They currently have 23. The contract for animal services was a significant increase. It went from $12,000 to $25,000. So the new positions recommended are one SRO, if paid for by Carolina Charter Academy, and one police officer 1. The budget also includes 2 promotional positions to sergeant that would be folks that already work for us and would be promoted to a higher level. 2 new vehicles, 6 license plate readers, 5 radars and printers, the digital speed signs for Broad Street, and $200,000 of general fund revenues will be transferred to the police capital project fund to pay for construction of the police department. Planning and zoning. So we We were contracting with Harnett County, and that contract expires at the end of this fiscal year. The board directed staff to create an inspections department, so we have separated inspections as their own department and planning and zoning to accurately count the revenues from permits and fees. So the recommended planning and zoning department budget is just over $477,000. It's one full-time employee with the other 4 employees split 50% between the 2 departments. There is funds for the comprehensive land use plan, which I know y'all are excited to do and will guide the future of the town for 10 to 15 years. There is training for the planning board and board of adjustment, and then community development project and events. So the inspections department is just over $500,000. It is the addition of a chief building inspector who starts on June 10th and a part-time building inspector. We have not hired a part-time individual yet, still working through that. It also includes new inspections, permit, and code enforcement software, which will automate a lot of our processes. And it also includes 1 new vehicle. Streets and sanitation, the recommended departmental budget is just over $2.3 million. The capital items are an excavator that's being split between streets and the water and sewer fund, construction of the Campbell Street sidewalk, an informational sign, and 2 additional employees, again split with the water and sewer fund. Parks and Recreation, the recommended departmental budget is just over $1 million. There's 1 full-time position added. There is funding for erosion control measures for the pond at Jack Marley, and as well $500,000 to match a Part F grant that we plan to apply for next spring. So debt service is what purchases that we've already made that must be budgeted for. This is for leaf truck and boom truck, just over $38,000. I think I mentioned the other day, this will be completely paid off in 2027. So very little debt in Fund 10. Non-departmental budget is cell phones, the longevity pay, employee appreciation. That recommended budget is $72,604. The library and the depot, we went into an agreement with Harnett County to run the library, and so now our responsibility is just the maintenance of this building. So hopefully $5,000 will be enough. Never know. Those things are hard to predict. The recommended budget for the depot is $39,500, and that has to do with inspections and other maintenance items at the depot. Did anyone have questions or comments on Fund 10? Okay, so we're going into the water and sewer fund. The recommended departmental budget is just over $4.7 million. As I said before, adding 2 full-time positions and an excavator. The revenues that we previously received from the installation of water meters is being separated in order to save up for the replacement of the water meters, which occurs about every 10 years. Oh, sorry. So in the water and sewer fund, let me turn to that page. So your water department expenditures are $1.98 million. This is where we account for purchasing water from Harnett Regional. Your sewer department expenditures, just over 1.1, and there again, that is where we account for sending our wastewater to the county to be treated. We do break out the maintenance at Smith Drive, which is the old wastewater treatment plant, and that is $780,500. The lagoon, which is at the end of Campbell Street, the expenditures for that department are $140,560, and it includes $50,000 for the decommission of the spray fields, which is important for our park project. The debt service obligations for water and sewer are $608,811. This is for boom truck and revenue bonds that we use to upgrade pump stations 1 and 6. And we are transferring some of our water and sewer revenue to the capacity purchase with Harnett Regional in the amount of $78,577. Okay, let's talk fees. So we had discussed at our previous workshops about increasing our fees. We're increasing the youth sports fees from $25 to $30, and the out-of-town fee is going to be double the in-town fee. We tried to keep that across the board within our fee schedule. The road closure fee is new. We do need to determine if that's per street or per block, or what y'all would like to do with that. We have Public Works to bring barricades and those type of things out, and we sort of feel that sometimes maybe it's not in the best interest of the brick and mortar stores for closing down the street, and sometimes people close the street and they don't need to close the street.
Yeah. Do you want us to discuss that right now?
Yeah.
So I guess per block would mean, for example, Broad Street and the one block between Lillington and
Yes.
210.
That's how I would
Yeah.
interpret that.
That's how I would consider a road closure is per block like that. I don't know about you guys.
The consideration I had was how many days it's going to be closed. So that was where I would see it,
Okay.
it needing to increase is 500 per day, not so much the amount of space. That I hadn't thought about how much space. I had just considered how many days.
Okay. Well, that's important too.
Yeah.
I would assume just one day, per day is the way I would put it.
500 per day.
Yeah.
Per block.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Previously, the fees for officers working off duty for some of these events were not published in our fee schedule, and we felt like it was important to do that. So that is $40 per hour, and there is an officer to citizen ratio based on whether alcohol is present or if alcohol is not present. So folks that want to have large events, they need to have security, and of course the town shouldn't be paying our officers from the town to go provide security. So that is a new fee. That is an average between, I can't remember exactly which towns they looked at, but we were on the low side. So planning department fees, we've discussed increasing the Parks and Recreation Development fee from $500 to $1,000 per lot. The payment in lieu of open space from $500 to $1,000. Public Works site inspection and driveway CO are $100, and the reinspection fee is going to $100. All of the trade fees are $80, up from $50, I believe. This is our rates and fees for the regulatory fees. So connecting to our utilities, we did a tremendous amount of research based on the peer communities around us, and we were by far the lowest by $1,500. We had Brandon run an analysis of what it costs staff, what it costs for the equipment using the FEMA equipment schedule, and these were the numbers that we came up with. It's important for the utility fund to be self-sustaining, and so we need to be charging what it costs the town to install. And they hadn't been raised in 12 years. That was the other point. So water and sewer rates, we're proposing a 5.5% increase in the water and sewer rates. That is the CPI for water, sewer, trash that was published January 2024. It seems that it makes more sense to raise rates incrementally based on the CPI versus going many years without raising rates. So the difference is about $2 per month on the flat rate.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's $206. So not a ton of money, a little bit more money.
I do think it's better to do it incrementally. Otherwise, we end up like with our Harnett County property tax assessment that was pushed off, and all of a sudden
Right.
it became too much for some people to bear. So
Right.
we'll do it incrementally so the impact is really low, and then I don't have to sneak up on somebody 5 years from now and really mess it up.
Did anyone have any other questions about that? Okay. So I want to thank everybody, and we have this great picture out front of Town Hall, and I'm going to go through our capital budgets very quickly. Most of that money is from other sources, so not town money. We have $13.1 million that's either coming from the legislature through ARPA or through the LAP projects, which is DOT, and the town match on that is only $930,000. So very good return on your investment, so to speak. So we've got POW bill, which is the state street aid, and we get that money twice a year from the state, and we're requesting to use $105,000 from fund balance to repave streets. So that total budget is $308,600. The Junie Road Willow Street sidewalk project, we expect our reimbursement from, or our distribution from NCDOT to be just over $1.2 million, and we're requesting to transfer $50,000 from the Capital Reserve Fund. The Highway 210 Park Street sidewalk is almost complete, but we still have some punch list items, so the budget for that is $142,500. Southwest Drainage Project, which is mitigation measure number 3. You may recall that we received $400,000 from the state through ARPA. We are projecting $8,000 of interest earned on our investment. Last year, there was $450,000 transferred to this fund, and then we are requesting to take $200,000 from the Capital Reserve Fund to fully fund this project. This is the project, the culvert project along South Broad Street, that is supposed to help with the flooding in the Southwest Drainage Basin. So water distribution core system replacement, we are anticipating that cost at $5.25 million, which is funds that we have received from the legislature. We received bids, and Jimmy will talk about this a little bit later, for the elevated water tank, $2.7 million, which was under the engineer's estimate. Along with that project is the duplex booster pump station to be located at Tippett Road, and that budget is $1,426,000. We received a grant from the state, the lead line replacement revenues, so we have a budget for that, but all those funds are coming from the state. McIver Street sidewalk project, which began last year, I believe. The budget for that is $1,098,000. Our system development fees, this is based on 200 homes, and of course we know that the system development fees are set, and they cannot be changed until a new study is commissioned. We just commissioned one last year. Those revenues are $549,200. And we are allocating that to go to the wastewater treatment expansion, so the cost for that. And then the system development incremental cost method, which is a very small budget of $3,500. So I would ask if there are questions or something that you would like to change, if you could let me know that this evening, so that when I come back before you and the public hearing, you have a budget that is ready to adopt.
Have any questions or comments? Thank you very much, and thank town staff very much for working so hard on this that we don't have any questions for you at this point. There's something to be said for that. So
Thank you.
all right. With that, we'll move on to new business. We get to see Jimmy up here, and he's going to talk to us about the tentative award for construction of the 500,000 gallon elevated tank and booster pump station. I figured I would introduce the whole thing while you were walking up here.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Good evening, board. Hope everybody's doing well. Just couple things I need to clarify from the manager's report. She mentioned all those projects that we have. We got to convert those to tasks. I only have 2 projects that I'm doing. Okay.
No, they sound like projects
Yeah, that's what
to me,
that's what it
I
sounds
think.
All right, board. Before you should have the action form in regards to the Junior Road water tank and booster station. The town identified the need to replace the Door Street water tank with a 500,000 gallon tank on Junior Road. Along with that, with a booster station is needed at Tippett Road to be able to pump water into the towns and to the tanks. The town contract with MBD Consultants for design and bidding of the projects. Following NCGS procurement guidelines, the board approval is contingent on approval from Division of Water Infrastructures. And hopefully after their review, the formal award will be brought to you on the June 4th meeting. So this is just for you to approve the bids that we have received, and the 2 bids that we received. One was from the Caldwell tanks. That was for $2,717,900. That was for the tank itself. And then for the booster station there on Tippett Road, that was Temple Grading and Construction Incorporated for $1.281,240 million. So right now we're just looking for the board to approve the resolution of tentative award for this. Once we receive that, we'll send that to our engineer, who will forward that to DWI, basically telling DWI the board is giving their blessing on these 2 bids. And then once DWI receives this and they finish their review, hopefully by the June 4th meeting, we'll have a final resolution before you to approve those 2 vendors. And I think our hats off to MBD, who our engineer who did this. His engineer's estimate was spot on to what we had budgeted. So they did a real good job at that.
That's good. We don't see a lot of that these days.
I was going to say that doesn't happen very often. And I was talking to a manager in the western part of the state, and he was like, "You had it come in under? Really?"
Yeah.
So yeah, he did a very good job.
Great.
Is there any questions for me on this resolution?
Anybody have any questions? This is basically the results of the low bids for these projects. You just need our blessing on them so we could go to the next step.
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay. Nobody has any questions. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to adopt Resolution R7 2024 and tentative project bid information.
All right. Pending any further discussion, all those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you, board.
All right, next we have budget amendment number 7. Samantha, what it says here.
Hello. How
Hey.
are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Good. So I am here presenting to you budget amendment number 7. Public Works is requesting additional funds for water purchases for resale and sewer contract services. This is due to unforeseen expenditures, additional costs that were not planned for. There's no way for us to have seen. We did increase this coming budget by that dollar amount just to make sure we were covered. But to make sure that we can afford everything for this current fiscal year, I am recommending that we increase our water regulatory fees and our sewer regulatory fees by money we have already received. And then appropriate from our fund balance $90,000 to cover the total difference of the $300,000. This will help us with the $150 for the purchases for resale and $150 for contract services.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Samantha? Then I'll entertain a motion.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve budget amendment number 7 as presented.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? 3-1. Motion carries. Thank you, Samantha.
Okay. And I am presenting the next item.
You
as well.
are. All right. Give it to us.
This is the resolution of the Board of Commissioners for the town of Anger to making required findings and authorizing the filing of an application for approval of a financial agreement authorized by North Carolina General Statute 160A-20 and providing for certain other matters related thereto. So I have Ashley Anderson with me over from Sands. Ashley Anderson? Yes, from Sands Anderson. She is one of our bond counsel, and she can explain a little bit about what bond counsel does for our town, but they do pretty much anything in-depth financing wise with us. We want to have an attorney on our side for helping us through the process, advocating on our behalf. Anything that's a little bit more difficult than just a regular like home or car financing. We do have them helping us out with that, and they're a huge help through this process. So she'll come speak a little bit more on that for you.
All right. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. As Samantha said, my name is Ashley Anderson. I'm an attorney with Sands Anderson. I work throughout the state of North Carolina with local governments on public finance issues, economic development issues, and other general matters of local government, although I tend to leave those to traditional town attorneys like Dan. But we are instrumental, not just in, we're commonly referred to as bond counsel. We do more than bonds. We work on public finance transactions of all kinds. They can be very complicated. It's helpful to have an attorney or someone familiar with the process in addition to your financial advisor, working with you to make sure you meet the statutory requirements, the legal requirements. You do have before you tonight a resolution for the financing of the new police station. This is the first step in the interim financing process. It makes the preliminary determination to proceed with the project and the interim financing. It also makes certain findings of fact that the local government commission will look for when it comes time to approve your financing and your application. It also authorizes staff to take the necessary steps to proceed with the financing and other matters related to the project. This particular agreement sets Sands Anderson as your bond counsel and Davenport as your financial advisors. So should you choose to proceed with the project and the financing, we would hope that you would adopt this resolution tonight. If there are any other questions you have for me, hopefully about the resolution, I'd be happy to answer those more specific project questions. I'm going to look to somebody else in the room to answer those.
All right, well, let's see. Does anyone have any questions about this?
So y'all will adopt this resolution, and then we'll also need you to adopt the legal services agreement with Pope and Pope. So they are going to be our real estate attorney. So they will handle the real estate transactions and the closings, and there will be 2 closings. Just want to put that out there.
Okay. So this resolution does both of those.
You need to adopt the resolution, and then you need to make a motion to approve the legal services agreement with Pope and Pope.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, is this something that we've done in the past?
Are you asking about the resolution? We have to do this before we can go to the LGC. And so the LGC is the authority in North Carolina that will tell us if we can borrow money or not. And so without the resolution, then we can't borrow the money to build the police station.
And they just want to see in the resolution, that interim financing was the preferred method, and that y'all, it states that you explored other options, but this is the one you chose and why. So this is sort of the town's thoughts on paper.
Perfect.
Anyone else? Any questions? All right, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and make the motion for the agreement per the statute 168-20
All right.
as written.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha.
So I will now make a motion to adopt the legal services agreement for Pope and Pope as submitted.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous too. All right, Jimmy.
All right, back one more time. Before you, you've got the action form in regards to awarding design construction contract to Bobbitt and Davis Kane for our police department. The board authorized the town's project manager and town manager to conduct an RFQ process to select a design build firm to construct a new police station. The selection committee made its recommendation to USDA to select Bobbitt and Davis Kane as the design build team. The town received concurrence from USDA on the committee selection. So now we're going to present you for the contracts. So our next step is to execute the AIA 141-2014 standard contract. This will allow the town to begin designing the police station. The board will also need to adopt two other documents, Exhibit B, which stipulates the insurance, the contractor and the town, the assurance that the contractor and the town are required to carry, and a documentation from USDA titled Attachment to the AIA document 141-2014. Sorry, it's long.
Strange.
This is the USDA process, and it's a long process to do that, but in the long run, it'll be well worth it for the town. So you have the standard form of agreement between our owner and design builder. The document from USDA amends the language of the standard AIA 141-2014 to be in compliance with the USDA's standards for receiving funding. Once the design is complete, Exhibit A to AIA 141-2014 will capture the construction cost and guaranteed maximum price. This document cannot be adopted until the design and construction drawings are complete. It is estimated this document will be ready for adoption in March of 25. So basically, you're looking at a year for design and then a year for construction is the time frame on that. Right. So tonight we just the staff recommends approval, and then we have the required motion before you. I do have Mr. Andy Speck from Bobbitt, so he's here to answer any questions. So if you approve this, we'll bring him up. If you don't, then we'll have to start all over again. Let's not do that.
All right.
All right. So any questions from me?
Want to have any questions for Jimmy?
And our town attorney has reviewed these.
Okay.
Now, when we make a motion, if we combine them both together, they both have to be separate.
Yep. Just where we've got the recommended motion, if you'll just read the recommended motion, then that should cover everything.
It's a long one. I'm glad I don't have to do it.
I make a motion to approve AIA 141, AIA 141 Exhibit B, and the attachment to AIA document, standard form of agreement between owner and design builder.
All right. There's no discussion. All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Andy, you want to come on up and then just introduce you and just talk a little bit about your team? Yeah, I thought he was going to have to go up.
That's all right.
I'm Andy Speck with Bobbitt Construction. Thank you very much for approving the contract. We're excited to get started. So we've got a good team. Davis Kane's very well-renowned architects in the public safety environment. So we're ready to go. I'm looking forward to providing you a great station.
Sounds good. Thank you. And Jimmy, you're sticking around until it's done, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
This is, and just to follow up on what
Okay.
I know being a part of the team, this is not unfamiliar territory for Bobbitt, and you guys have projects very similar going on in the close area as well. So, yeah, great.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Faith, are you here? Great. Faith is going to talk to us about resolutions for accepting ARPA funds from the State Fiscal Recovery Fund.
Yes, good evening. These are just the resolutions to formally accept the funding that receives the $8.73 million with the ordinances that we adopted in the amended state in our last meeting. There is Resolution 009, which covers $3 million. That is split between both the water tower and the core replacement. And then Resolution 10, which is the wastewater treatment plant capacity.
All right. And again, these are just required resolutions for us to get and spend someone else's money.
We have to formally accept these funds through this resolution for us to even spend the money.
All right. Any questions for Faith?
If I could, I would just like to thank Faith for steering us through the ARPA. I don't know if you've ever seen the federal legislation. It's incredibly thick and detailed, and thank you for helping us. We very much appreciate it.
I'm glad that we have you here to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion. If nobody has any questions.
I'll go ahead and make the motion that we adopt the resolution as written.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. All right. We're moving right through this. Elizabeth is going to speak to us about the design and construction of a Veterans and First Responders Memorial.
Yes, so Senator Bergen was able to secure funding for the town of $50,000. It flows through Harnett County, and we have 1 year to spend it, and the board determined that they would like to do a project, a construction of a Veterans and First Responders Memorial. So 2 potential locations have been identified. We are before you tonight seeking direction on where you would like it and setting a budget for this project. Like I said, we do have to spend the funds within a year, so we'd like to get started as quickly as possible. And I know Jim has done a lot of work just researching different options. So I'm going to turn it over to y'all, and you can let staff know what your preference is, and we'll get started.
Okay. So the 2 spots we're talking about, let's talk about location first. The 2 spots we're talking about is on the corner of Jack Marley Park's entrance, next to the cemetery. And the other one that was mentioned was along Centennial Trail somewhere, which is what runs along North Broad Street East, between North Broad Street East and North Broad Street West. Yeah, we have a lot of Broad Streets. I live on one of them. So we could discuss those locations if you like, and we'll get that out of the way. Jim, if you want to, Jim is kind of the one who's been fueling this project, so he's got the most information. You want to tell us your thoughts, and then we'll go from there.
I would probably, I'm sure a lot of people would agree with this at the entrance to the park, because there will probably be more parking there, especially for different times of the year, for like Veterans Day, Memorial Day, 9/11, because the way that we have the programs that I want to put together for it would, I think, most suit the town.
Yeah.
And it will be out of the way. I mean, not out of the way, but out of the main traffic area. Because if we do it down Broad Street, I think we're going to run into traffic problems with parking.
All right.
That's what my thoughts are.
Okay. You have something to add?
Mm-mm.
So the other one we were considering was Centennial Trail, which is that winding sidewalk. And not that that's a bad spot for it. I think it all makes sense where at Jack Marley Park there. The reason I was considering Centennial Trail was because we might find cost savings, given that we've already got a sidewalk there and benches and stuff like that, and we could just kind of build onto that with the statues if we needed to find cost savings. And I guess as far as parking goes, there's definitely not parking lots there. Depending where it was on Centennial Trail, if the fire department could use their overflow lot, or even if it's closer to Town Hall, and then we've got Town Hall parking that might alleviate that. But I think either location is a viable spot for it. So I would defer to you guys on what you guys think.
I think the park gets more foot traffic as well, so it would be frequented. The Rotarians did a project adding the perennial flowers at the benches, and that has been a nice addition. I would hate to, overbear one for the other. I think that the park is probably keeping it all together. I like that idea.
Okay.
Do we own that little parcel right down that corner? Because at one time it was owned by Ted. Does the town now own that property, or?
Under my understanding, we did.
Okay.
I might.
That's a
I
good
think
question,
that was
though.
one of
It's
the
easy
questions.
enough to find out.
I would just like to confirm that before we move on.
Yeah,
Because
that's smart.
I know
Ted,
that was
at
a
one time, he had said that he was going to purchase it. Remember, and then they came back. and
Right.
There was
up in
conflict with
limbo.
something.
Something was
Yeah,
it
something
was
was
something.
wrong with the parcel. So
I
we
thought
need
that
to
was
find-
corrected, but I don't remember.
There was something wrong with the
With
title.
that's
So
right. Yeah.
do you know by chance? Does Ted own it? Do we own it?
GIS shows it as Town of Anger.
The town. Okay.
For whatever, however accurate GIS is.
So, but we do own it. There's not an extra. Okay. But we can.
It's kind of a narrow, it's narrower than I thought. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of a really narrow strip.
I just want to make sure it's big enough to do it on that parcel.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have to buy something else.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, so the lines show it as 54 feet deep from the park side towards the cemetery. And then 423 feet long. The parcel technically goes into the first 4 parking spaces in the park.
Right.
I think that's probably as close as we would want to get to the cemetery anyways,
yeah.
depth
Yeah, that's
wise.
gonna be
You've got
more-
400 feet
yeah.
to work with.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, there's a lot of
And
depth.
it's not going to be. I mean,
And
it's,
there's sidewalk that butts right up to it, I think.
I think
Yeah.
it's
It's more
that
than adequate. I just
Oh,
want to
yeah.
make sure that we're not,
encroaching on
encroaching
it.
on. Because that's another thing we had the last time was encroachment.
Right.
Because they couldn't find out who that little parcel was that Ted had bought between it and the cemetery.
Right.
remember?
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, Jimmy, if you can correct me on this, wasn't it surveyed? Was it last year?
Yes, sir, I believe it was.
I think it was 2 years
2
ago.
years ago.
Because there was questions about the first 4 parking lot. Somebody else had owned it and we had to buy it
Yeah.
from them.
Yeah, the deed date is 22, about 2 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember the orange stakes in the ground there. And
Just as long as we're not encroaching and it's our property.
No, that's a very good question. Thank
Yeah.
you for bringing it up.
I think as long as it's all good, the park is a better choice too. I'm kind of in agreement. For gatherings and holidays, it just is a safer choice, I think.
Okay. Well, I think we're all in agreement then to move forward with that spot.
You want a formal motion?
Go ahead, Jim.
I would like to make the motion that we put the Veterans Park there at the entrance to Jack Marley Park.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. Yeah, so let's talk about budget. I don't know that we can nail one down right now because Jim is still researching options
I have a
and stuff like
ballpark
that.
on the statues, depending on which ones we go with, anywhere from $45,000 to $60,000 for the bronze statues.
Is that for all the statues?
for 3 of them?
For 3 of them?
Yeah, that's for the Veterans Memorial, the Fire Department, and the Police Department. The one for the first responders, we'd have to probably put off because that has to be custom made, and they start off at around $62,000. And it takes about 16 to 18 months to make.
But you think that the first 3 statues would still give us a
Oh,
complete,
well, definitely,
Veterans
definitely,
Memorial?
Definitely.
And then how much more on top of the statues for everything else that's got to go with
well,
it?
for the bases, a ballpark, I'm guessing somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000, done in stone. And I'm reaching out to some contractors and hoping they'll get back to me. Maybe they can donate some of their time. And
Yeah.
and I mean, because they're not very big bases, they'll probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 or 4 foot and
Yeah.
square and probably 3 or 4 foot high. And then maybe a small walkway coming into it. And then
Okay.
in the future, we could actually expand on it and put a small wall around it
Right.
if we have to.
So it sounds like he's got a good
So,
staged
yeah,
approach.
somewhere, if a ballpark, I'm guessing somewhere, good ballpark would be around 70 to 85,000 for
Okay.
the whole thing.
Do we need to consider any landscaping, trees or bushes and
benches.
benches?
Well, I'm considering a lot of that.
Oh, okay.
Probably.
Okay. I just wasn't sure.
So what I had kind of talked to Jim about was, while we're still refining how we're going to do it, we know it's over the 50. He's got some ideas for sources to get some donations to help cover it.
Yep.
The statues take, what did you say, 6 to 8 months?
The ones that they have depends on which ones we go with. The quickest we can get them, no more than 8 months.
Okay. So we had kind of talked about, we know that the 50,000 needs to be spent relatively quickly. And I was curious to know if we could spend that money on the statues.
Right.
And then take the time in between the statues being made and construction to pursue some outside donations or something like that to go towards
and we have
it.
enough other ways to get donations. There's a bunch of groups out there, like the Veterans Treatment Court wants to donate. There's a lot of the other veterans organizations that are showing a lot of interest in donating, but they needed a ballpark figure where we stand.
Sure.
And so they're reaching out to me and would definitely like to do something with that.
So we're having statues wall name.
On the battlefield cross, the way it's going to be, it will have a plaque on there for that will cover all the wars for the fallen, and then we're still working on the ones for the police department and fire department for the fallen. No, that would be too expensive to do. To have a plaque for each name to go up there. No names, yeah.
Yeah. But that's something we could grow into.
Yeah, we can grow into that in the future.
Just right now.
The different statues, monuments, yes. And they're all bronze. They're all solid bronze.
So I think it's a good start to something that could be expanded as we go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So is it okay if we say now that we'll probably use the 50 on the purchase of the statues and then take time to pursue outside funding for the rest of it? Or
Yeah,
what do
I think
you-
that's fine. I think what I would like is for Jim to share the information he has with me for the specific statues and the specific cost, and us go ahead and get them ordered, and then we can submit that to the county as like evidence that we have used the grant funds. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody? Well, thank you, Jim, for doing a lot of the footwork on this one.
Thank you.
Just since we know we're almost assuredly going to be spending the 50, should we give a ballpark of an additional? Do we want to say we're going to set aside another 50 towards the project additionally, or just so you have some frame, because you're going to have to pull it from somewhere to put it somewhere else. So
Yeah, I guess if people give donations, they would give the
you're going to have
donations
to make the site
to the
appropriate.
town.
Like it's not
Right.
going to be just stick it on the dirt that exists. I don't think.
Right. If the board wanted to do authorize us to spend the 50,000 from the county and then authorize an additional, however, another $50,000 maybe, then that would get us started. And so that would, hopefully get most of what we've talked about tonight.
Yeah, and then if we get donations for some of this stuff,
Then the town's
it back
amount
out
would
of that.
be
Right.
reduced, right?
Well,
yeah.
and I don't want us to only spend the 50 and then you have to come back and say, okay, now,
Right.
In 2 weeks, okay, we've done that. We need to make the next. So
Sure.
whatever everybody else is comfortable
No, I
with.
think it's a
just
good idea.
threw another 50, so not that, yeah.
I think that's a smart move, so we can at least ensure that it gets done
And so
without
the-
any delays in money.
And we would need to bring you a budget amendment once we have once we have whatever total amount you want to spend.
We could probably just take that out of contingency, I imagine.
Yeah, but that doesn't start till July 1st.
Ah, all right. So we're talking now money.
We're talking now money.
Have we already received the 50?
Yes,
I think so. Yeah. Is it a reimbursement? It's not a reimbursement grant.
Because the museum
No,
got
we've
one.
received it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Do you need a motion or you want to bring us a budget amendment to
I can
vote
bring you
on?
a budget amendment if the consensus is 100,000. Is that what I'm
I think that's a
hearing
safe
from
number.
the board?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good with 50, the additional 50.
Okay. So we will bring you a budget amendment at June 4th.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Anything else to add to that, Jim, or we're good?
Nope. we're good.
Awesome.
Thank
We're going to
you.
get it done.
Yes, sir.
All right. For old business, we have on the agenda to continue our talk about the changes to the commercial park zoning district. Jeff couldn't be here with us tonight, and so I think we'll probably just table that for the June 4th meeting so Jeff can be a part of guiding us through that. I guess we need a can I just table it, or do we need a motion? Okay. Sounds good. Are you guys good with that? Okay.
And I just want to acknowledge our thoughts are with Jeff and his family at this time.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, that's all we have for business. We do need to make a motion now to go into close. So if anyone,
I make a motion that we go into closed session.
all those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. So with that, we're going to close the open session.
Do I need to say what for? Don't I need to say what for? Okay. I make a motion that we go into closed session pursuant 143-318.11 A6. Wow.
All right, all those in favor of that motion, please raise your right hand. That's unanimous. Now we will close the open session. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll take a short recess and then